So I was talking to a friend about Cyrus and about his life and just about everything because she felt led to give me a word. And her word was just confirmation, okay? God had told me before Cyrus was ever even conceived that I was going to have another baby. It was going to be a boy, and I was to name him Cyrus after King Cyrus in the Bible. And he told me that Cyrus's birth in the physical realm was going to trigger something in the spiritual realm that was going to happen, promises and things that God's been speaking to me about. And they were going to start to be fulfilled and blessings were going to start to trickle in. And when I tell you guys the amount of times the enemy has tried to take his life, it doesn't even surprise me because he's done the same thing to my husband. And if you know anything about my husband's testimony, you would know he is not supposed to be alive. And you would probably look at him and be like, how are you here? And I'll tell you how it's because the Lord. And right before I had Cyrus, the Lord told me that Cyrus was going to look like him. That he was going to have like similar personality traits as he does. And that he was going to be a warrior. Just like his dad. The amount of times, like I said, the enemies try to kill my husband. I'm like, what are you so afraid of, Satan? Like, what are you so afraid of that he's going to do? Because from birth to now, he has almost died a countless number of times. And the enemy will always try to kill what has purpose. This is the third time the enemy has attempted to take my son's life. And he's only not even 2 months old. You see, before I even knew I was pregnant with him, this had to be at around the time of conception where the egg would be planted in the uterus. I was woken up one night from my sleep around 2 to 3 in the morning, and I was awoken by a pain I felt in my uterus. And it's crazy. God talks to me like this all the time, but in my subconscious. So I can't doubt that it's him, because sometimes when I'm awake, I do that. But when I'm asleep, I'm like, I'm sleeping. I know that was the Lord, you know? Like, your girl unconscious. How can I be talking to myself? But I responded in my subconscious, and I said, what is this, Lord? And he said the words ectopic pregnancy. And when I woke up, I remembered this conversation I had with the Lord, and I had no idea what ectopic pregnancies were, mind you. And so God had me Google it, look up what it is, and it is basically a tubal pregnancy where the egg does not get implanted in the correct spot, which is the uterus. It gets implanted in the fallopian tubes, which can cause you to die and your baby to die. And usually, in most cases, the baby and the pregnancy is non-viable. Like, it just can't survive. Now, when I heard this word, I was thinking immediately it was for my sister, because my sister was also pregnant. She just told me she was pregnant. So I call her the next day and I'm like, hey, are you feeling all right? She's like, yeah, I'm feeling all right. And I'm like, I received a really weird word about ectopic pregnancies. And silly me, I just didn't think that this word was for me at all. Didn't even think I was pregnant at all. So I was like, there's no way this can be for me. And God just had me pray against it anyways. And I'm really, really glad I did, because it was for me. A couple weeks later, I ended up finding out that I was pregnant with Cyrus. And I was like, that devil is a liar. That was attempt number 1. After I had found out I was pregnant, the Lord told me I had to do everything different with this child. And I just didn't want to tell anyone I was pregnant, and I didn't feel like I was supposed to until the appointed time, is what God said. And so I kept it a secret as long as I could. And around 11 weeks pregnant, I almost had a miscarriage with him. There was hemorrhaging around the sac, and I was bleeding a lot. I went to the hospital not knowing if I was having a miscarriage or not, and they just basically sent me home saying, we don't know if you're going to miscarry or not. And that night, in that hospital bed, I prayed and I told the Lord, you will not have my family, you will not have my children, you get your hands off of this baby in Jesus' name. And I knew this baby was going to be okay. And he was. But my whole pregnancy, I went through it. Okay, some of you guys, if y'all been keeping up with us, you know a little bit about everything that we've had to go through this whole time. That basically from the time I found out I was pregnant with Cyrus until now, and it's still happening. Here we are at attempt number 3 of my baby's life being threatened once again. And you know what? If the devil wants to try me, he can go ahead and try me. He's going to have to repay back everything he has stolen 7 times over. Oh, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Cyrus will serve the Lord. And just like God said, his birth, he's almost 2 months old, okay? But mark my words, you guys, God said his birth is going to trigger a lot of good things to happen in the spirit realm. A lot of things to be released from the spirit realm that rightfully belong to my family. And I'm not just talking about like wealth, money, riches. I don't really care for that. It's much deeper than that. And it's crazy because, I'm not gonna cry. I have been praying for the men in my family for years to come to Christ and to wake up. And I noticed after Cyrus was born, I'm just starting to notice that many of them, their hearts are being softened right now. And they're coming to God in a deeper way. And so, it's already happening, and the devil's already mad. But this is absolutely a spiritual battle. But Jesus has already won. And my baby's gonna be okay. I have had so much peace. My heart is broken and I hurt so bad for my baby. But I have that peace. I can have that. You see, I've almost lost my husband, like I said so many times, and while I was pregnant, he got stomach cancer. The enemy is threatened about life, and so he's trying to send death over my family and over the men in my family, and it's just not going to prosper in Jesus' name. You see, some of you, God has chosen, anointed, and appointed for such a time as this to change the course of your family, of your bloodline, of your generation. God's going to use you to do that. And it's a time to be very violent with the enemy right now, especially for your promises. You better go to war for what's rightfully yours. And if you're tired, that's okay. I am too. But get back up and keep going. Fight for what rightfully belongs to you. In Jesus' name.